Welcome everyone, this is your own channel Learner Saga. In this video we will discuss the poem No Men Are Foreign by James Kirkup. But before starting the poem, I like to request you to press the like button, subscribe the channel if you are new, and also to share the video. So without wasting any time, let's begin. No Men Are Foreign. The poem is written without rhyme scheme, and if a poem is written without any rhyme scheme, any particular rhyme scheme, the poem is called a free verse. So this poem No Men Are Foreign is a free verse. The poet James Kirkup, he was an English poet. He highlights in this poem the concept of universal brotherhood. He means to say that all the world is a country, hence no men are foreign to one another. All people are same and equal. As this section says, have you ever thought of some people as strange or other countries as foreign? Definitely we generally do. Those whom we don't know, we consider them as strange or unknown, and the people from the other countries as foreigner, because we treat other countries as foreign. We have many ways of thinking of other people as different from us, as them. That means we do refer them as them. We don't call them we or us. They do not belong to us directly. That's why we generally tell them as them. They may belong to a different country or speak a different language. In this poem, however, the poet reminds us of the many ways in which we are all the same, for we are all human. That means, although the poet here, the James Kirkup poet, the poet here tries to say that definitely the persons who do not reside in our country, by technical term we may regard them as foreigner. But according to the poet says that this is a kind of the whole world is like a country. If we are to take this, if we are to accept this concept, then definitely all the people residing in this world are our brothers. That's why the poet says that we all are same and there is no existence of any boundary, any national boundary. So the poet here highlights the concept of universal fraternity. He means to say that all the world is a country. So no men are foreign to one another and everyone is equal and same. Okay, now read this poem. Remember, no men are strange, no countries foreign. Beneath all uniforms a single body breathes, like ours. The land our brothers walk upon is earth like this, in which we all shall lie. You can see that the poem has 5 stanzas, and each stanza consists of 4 lines. That means total 20 lines are there in the poem. But the poem, as I told you, doesn't maintain any particular rhyme scheme, and that's why the poem is a free verse. The first stanza, it says remember. So the poet is trying to make us remember something. He is trying to pay our attention in one thing, that is, no men are strange. No people are strange or unknown to each other. Here strange means unknown. And the poet is trying to say that no men are strange. That means every people, every citizen, every person knows one another. No countries foreign. No countries are foreign to one another, because the poet doesn't believe in this concept. He doesn't believe in the boundary. So according to him, all the men are known to one another, and all the countries are known to one another. Or in a way we can say that no countries are foreign, because there is the existence of only one country, that is the world. So, and the poem is full of rhetorical devices. In this poem, however, the poem lacks rhyme scheme, but here you can find a lot of rhetorical devices, or the literary devices, what do you say. The very first line, as it is said, no men are strange, no countries foreign. This is an example of litotes. This is an example of litotes. Beneath all uniforms. Here beneath means under. Under all uniforms, a single body breathes. However, the uniforms are different. Here the poet is trying to say that each soldier belonging to any particular country, however, they wear different kinds of uniforms, but they are beneath their uniforms, or under their uniforms, a single body breathes. That means under the uniform, the human being is the same. There is the same flesh and blood which consists of the body. So like ours, and all the human beings who are wearing the uniforms, they are like ours. They are not different. They are also human beings. The land our brothers walk upon is earth like this. Again, after the colon, you can see here that there is a punctuation mark colon after ours. So the colon stands for to clarify. The poet is now clarifying. The land our brothers walk upon. Our brothers means the soldiers of different countries wearing the different kinds of uniforms. And according to the poet, they are not our enemies. They are our brothers, because I told you he believes in universal brotherhood. That's why he said that no men are foreign, no country is foreign. So the land our brothers walk upon, that means the land on which our brothers walk upon is earth like this. Like this means like our country. As we trade upon, as we walk upon in this land, similarly they do, in which we all shall lie. And in which means on land, on the same land, we shall lie here. After death, we will rest in peace there. And here is also the literary device, that is allusion. This is an example of allusion. What the allusion is from the Bible. For you are dust, and to dust you shall return. This is taken from Genesis, or the Old Testament. Okay, this line, in which we shall lie, you can say that this is an example of, or the literary device, allusion. What is allusion? Allusion generally alludes to any mythological story or so. Here in this case, it alludes to the Bible, that Old Testament, Genesis. The line is, for you are dust, and to dust you shall return. So the first stanza, students, we have completed. Here it means the poet is trying to warn us, or he is trying to make ours in a way so that we pay attention, that no men are strange, no country is foreign. Beneath all uniforms, that means under all uniforms, however, the soldiers, they represent their particular country. Inside the uniform, the human body breathes in the same way as it is done by any other human body wearing different uniform representing his country. A single body breathes like ours. The land our brothers walk upon is earth like this. Everyone walks upon the earth, that is the land, in which we all shall lie. That means we all shall lie in the grave in this same earth after death. And I told you, this is an example of allusion, biblical allusion. It's taken from Genesis 3:19, the Old Testament. The line is from the God, for you are dust, and to dust you shall return. Okay, now I should move to the next stanza. They too, aware of sun and air and water, are fed by peaceful harvests, by wars long winter stopped. Their hands are ours, and in their lines we read a labor not different from our own. They too, aware of sun and air and water. They means the so-called foreigners, the so-called people whom we don't consider as ours. We treat them as strange. So they too are aware of the bountifulness of nature. Like the sun, they enjoy the benefit of sun, air and water. They use sun, they use water, they use air in the same way as we do. Are fed by peaceful harvests. They are also fed equally as we do. They are also fed by the harvests which are done in peaceful season. Here the word you can see here, peaceful harvests. This is also a literary device. This is also a literary device. Transferred epithet. Epithet means adjective, and here the adjective is definitely peaceful. The noun is harvests. Peaceful harvests. The epithet or the adjective peaceful is wrongly separated because the harvest cannot be peaceful. Peaceful is the situation. The situation when there is no war, the situation is very peaceful. While the country is in peace or without any war, the people enjoy themselves in harvesting. So this is an example of transferred epithet. By wars long winter stopped. By wars long winter stopped. Long winter, as we know that winter is a season which is very hard to deal with. And the poet here says that as the winter days are very long, winter days are very hard, similarly the war days are. Everyone suffers equally during the hard days of war. War days are like the prolonged winter days when all remain dormant. So we can say by wars long winter stopped is an example of metaphor. Metaphor, you know, in a metaphor the indirect comparison or the there is no such explicit comparison, but an indirect comparison is made between two unallied things or ideas. In this case, the war time and the winter time, these two are compared. And we can also say, providing the example of starvation. In case of the long winter days, as people starve, because in the winter days the people have nothing to do, they remain in dormant state. Similarly, by when the war is going on, there is no such thing, no harvest is there, there is no time for peaceful harvest, as it is said. That means starvation. So by war's long winter stomped. It is an example of metaphor. In this line, we have two examples of literary devices. Number one, peaceful harvest. This is an example of transferred epithet. Another one is war's long winter stopped. This is an example of metaphor. You can also say war's long winter as W, the letter W is repeated. You can say this is an example of alliteration also. Again, if we consider this whole line, that means from R to stopped, are fed by peaceful harvests, by war's long winter stopped, we can say that this is an example of antithesis. Why? Here, in an antithesis, what happens? Two contradictory words or ideas are placed in a balanced way for the sake of emphasis. Here also you can see the two contradictory ideas. Number one is fed and another contradictory stopped or starvation. These two are contradictory words. They are placed in a balanced way for the sake of emphasis. Again, another one, peaceful and war. That means peace and war. These two are the contradictory words and they are placed in a balanced way so as to give emphasis. So we can also say this is an example of antithesis. So students, this line is very important, particularly for literary devices. Here we have 4 literary devices in this one particular line. Number one, peaceful harvest is a transferred epithet. War's long winter stopped. It is metaphor as well as alliteration. And the whole line are fed by peaceful harvests, by war's long winter stopped. This is an example of antithesis, as fed and stopped are opposite to each other, or we can say peace and war are opposite to each other. Their hands are ours, and in their lines we read a labor not different from our own. Their hands are ours. That means their hands are just like ours. Their hands are not different. They also have the same kind of hand as we do have. And in their lines means the lines of the hand, we can read a labor not different from our own. If we analyze their lines, the lines of their hand, we will find that they are also same laborious person, they are also hardworking person like us, and they are not very different from us. As we do our labor to earn a living, similarly they do. So they are not someone else whom we consider as foreign. They are very like us. Now the third stanza. Remember, they have eyes like ours that wake or sleep, and strength that can be won by love. In every land is common life that all can recognize and understand. Remember, they have eyes like ours. Students, before analyzing this stanza, you can see that the first stanza starts with the word remember, and the third stanza also starts with the line with the word remember. So we can say this is an example of repetition also. Repetition is also a literary device. So here the word remember is repeated. That's why we can say this is an example of repetition. Now we should explain this. Remember, they have eyes like ours. That means they means the people residing in another country whom we consider as foreigner. Remember, they have eyes like ours. Their eyes are very like us. That wake, that means the eyes wake. That here stands for the eyes. That wake or sleep. The eyes wake or sleep. Their functions are the same, as our eyes help us to remain awake or asleep. Similarly, their eyes have the same function. And strength that can be won by love. They are equally powerful, they are equally strong like us. And as we can be won over by love, only love, they are also powerful. We should not think that they are weak. They are also strong. They have their potential in their own way, and they can only be won over by love. So students, here you can see and again the example of antithesis. How wake, sleep, these two different words, wake, sleep, they are placed side by side. Not side by side, actually what happens, if the two contradictory words are placed side by side, we call that literary device as oxymoron. But here it is not placed side by side, they are not juxtaposed. Wake or sleep, there is another word in between. That's why this is an example of antithesis again. This is not an example of oxymoron. Hadn't the word or not been there, then it would have been the example of oxymoron. But in this case, the word or is there, so wake or asleep, wake or sleep is an example of antithesis. Again you can see strength, love. Though it is far-fetched, still we can say strength and love are contradictory in a way. That's why this is also an example of antithesis. In every land is common life that all can recognize and understand. And in every land, the life is common. The life is common in every land that we all can recognize and understand. So this is an example of hyperbaton. Hyperbaton is a rhetorical figure in which the regular grammatical order is inversed. Here you can see in every land is common life. The actual grammatical order should have been in every land common life is. Okay, in every land life is common. It would have been the right way. In every land life is common. That means the lifestyle is common, that all can recognize and understand. So this is an example of hyperbaton. And the meaning of the third stanza is, the poet is here trying to make us remember that they, that means the people residing in another country or countries, have the same eyes and their utility, their functions are the same as ours. They also help them to remain awake or asleep. They are also strong and they can be won over only by love. And the life is common in every land. We all can recognize that common thing, that common lifestyle, and we can also understand or comprehend that. Now we should move to the next stanza. Let us remember, whenever we are told to hate our brothers, it is ourselves that we shall dispossess, betray, condemn. Remember, we who take arms against each other, it is the human earth that we defile. Students, this particular stanza is different from the other one. It is actually an example of enjambment. What happens here, you can see the stanza doesn't end here. The stanza is still continuing in the next line that forms the another stanza. As it is said, remember, we who take arms against each other, it is the human earth that we defile. Again, this is an example of another rhetorical device that is called enjambment. So however, we should at first analyze this. Let us remember again, the poet is trying to make us remember one thing, that whenever we are told, that means whenever someone tells us to hate our brothers, brothers means the enemies. Yes, the poet considers the enemies or the soldiers of other countries whom we generally consider as our enemies. According to the poet, they are not our enemy, rather they are our brothers. So he said, and he tells us to remember that whenever someone tells us to hate our brothers, who are actually brothers, not our enemies, it is ourselves that we shall dispossess. Then we are dispossessing ourselves. Right at that moment, we are dispossessing ourselves, or we are depriving ourselves. Depriving from humanity. We have our human nature. So whenever we are told to do so, or whenever we think to do so, we are depriving ourselves from our entity of being in humanity. Betray, and as we dispossess ourselves, we betray us, we cheat us, and condemn, and thereby we disapprove ourselves. We should not treat them as our enemy. So the poet here tries to say that whenever someone is told to hate the persons residing in another country or the soldiers of another country, they are cheating themselves. How? Because they are actually our brothers, and by doing so, by thinking so, we are depriving ourselves from humanity. And as we are depriving ourselves from humanity, we are betraying ourselves, or we are cheating ourselves, and consequently we are condemning or disapproving ourselves. So students, this is again example of climax. Climax is also a literary device. Yes, in this poem there are so many literary devices, but you have to remember, this is again the example of climax. Climax is a rhetorical figure in which there is the it's like a what should I say, it's like a ladder. As in a ladder we go, that means it is arranged in an ascending way of importance, ascending order of importance, you can say, because at first the word less important word dispose come, then comes more important than disposes betray, and then comes the most important condemn. So it is arranged in an ascending order of importance. So this is an example of climax. Disposes, betray, and condemn. They are arranged in an ascending order of importance, or like a ladder. So this is an example of climax. Remember, we who take arms against each other, it is the human art that we defile. Again the word remember, it is repeated. I have already told you that this is also an example of repetition. Remember, we who take arms against each other, that means we the people who use our weapons against one another. It is the human art that we defile. We are defiling, or we are making dirty. We are making our particular world dirty. Whenever we pick weapons against one another, we make the earth dirty. Our hails of fire and dust outrage the innocence of air that is everywhere our own. Actually here the poet wants to say that we make the earth dirty by morally violating humanity, and also by physically creating pollution. See here, it is said, it is the human earth that we defile. When we are taking arms against each other or one another, when we are using weapons against one another, we are defiling, or we are making dirty, we are polluting our own earth. We are making dirty our own earth. Our hails of fire and dust outrage the innocence of air. Our hails of fire means the fire that we create from the war. The poet here compares those fire with the fire of hell. Okay, listen carefully. Here, as it is said, our hails of fire. Hails of fire means here the fire of the war are compared with the fire of the hells. So you can say that this is an example of metaphor. What happens here? War fires are compared with the fires of hell. The fire of hell has only heat and no light. Okay, the quality, as mentioned by John Milton, the great poet, in his epic Paradise Lost. So we know that the fire of hell has only heat and no light. Actually, fire has two qualities, heat and light. We know the fire has two qualities, heat and light. But in case of the fire of hell, it has only one quality, that is heat, and it doesn't illuminate something. Similarly, the fire of war only makes the world hot but cannot illuminate the world. Okay, so this is the concept here. Our hells of fire means, here the poet tries to give importance by saying the word hells, hells of fire. The poet compares the fire that emerges from the war to that of the hell. Why? As I told you, the fire in hell has no such good quality. It has only the heat. It cannot illuminate. It cannot produce light. Similarly, the fire of war can create the world, can put the world in a very hot situation, but cannot lead it by providing light. And dust. And it doesn't only create hells of fire. The war doesn't only create hells of fire. It also produces dust. Outrage the innocence of air. And all these, that means the hells of fire and the dust, these two outrage the innocence of air. These two violate the purity of air. Outrage the innocence of air means violate the purity of air. Or you can say hampers. Outrage means hampers the holiness of air. That is everywhere our own. That is means the air. The air is everywhere our own. So the hails of fire and the dust, they pollute that fresh air. Innocence of air means the freshness of air. That air which is everywhere our own. You cannot say that the air that is blowing now in our country, it cannot go through, it cannot blow in another country. It doesn't obey any boundary. So the poet says that the hails of fire and the dust, they mix the freshness of the air, they outrages, they pollutes the freshness of the air, that air which is everywhere our own. We cannot say that while we are charging a country by putting atom bombs or etc., that country's atmosphere will be violated. No, that air will also blow through our country. So thereby we are making the whole atmosphere dirty. Remember, no men are foreign and no country is strange. Again the same thing, the poet repeats the very first line. Remember, no men are strange, no countries foreign. Similarly, no men are foreign and no country is strange. You can see here, at first it is said no men are strange. Now it is said no men are foreign. Secondly, it was said no country is foreign. Now it is said no country is strange. So the idea is the same. The poet here tries to make us understand that no country is foreign country, or no people are strange, no people are unknown, because he believes in universal brotherhood. So students, we have completed the poem. I think you have understood well, and definitely you should remember those rhetorical devices or the literary devices, because the poem is full of literary devices such as repetition, alliteration, allusion, metaphor, transferred epithet, antithesis, climax, simile, litotes, and also some hyperbole, you may say, as in this case hells of fire. You can say this is an example of hyperbole also. Hyperbole means it is said in an exaggerated way. The fire that is produced from the warfare is compared to the fire of hells. So it is something exaggerated speech or hyperbolic expression. Okay students, I think you have learned well. If not, please try to comment. If you have any doubt, please comment in the comment box. I will try to solve your problems as soon as possible. So we will meet in the next video. Till then, goodbye.